Day 2 of Le Mans testing, engine sorted. So we're here at Silverstone to try and sort the rest out. There are a couple of nails that we need to hit on the head today. Firstly, brake tyre management to get ready for Le Mans Classic. So we've got a couple of sets of brakes and tyres to bed, but also a couple of different compounds of brake to try. Obviously these cars completely dominated by their braking system really in terms of performance. So we need to get that bit of it absolutely right. Stability for the first time ever with this car is a concern. So we're going to try some setup items today to have the car run a little bit more nose down. GT40s are notorious for getting a bit light in the front end if you run the nose too high. So a package of changes to make the nose run a little bit lower but still maintain the balance in the high-speed corners is the next aim. And then just a bit of a feel for gearing, how fast we're going on the straight, where that sits in revs and gear. You can change the final drive on these. And we need to get a sense of where that's going to be in terms of the maximum speed to try to give us a feel. We may well do an airfield run after this, just to try to get the gearing right so we're not running out of revs and engine power at the very top end. I think that's going to be enough to be going on with today. By the end of today, I want to try and have this thing so it's ready to go out of the pits at Le Mans in what is just under a month's time. So yeah, lot to get done. Lovely, quiet, thank goodness, dry test day here at Silverstone. So a lot of laps to be getting done.
You really need to look at what long distance racing is all about. It's not about the driver, it's about the car. In fact, even modern Grand Prix racing is about the car. So with the Ford GT40 and the Le Mans 24-hour, which is still the most famous race after perhaps the Indy 500, is that the car's got to last. And as far as a driving point of view, with two drivers, at that time, all the cars were not strong enough, right, to be driven flat out for 24 hours.
Which component was in your mind with regards to keeping the car underneath you? You know, did you must have stood there before the race and thought we really need to try to keep hold of the.
Well, I'll give you an example. Right? The team manager introduced me to the guy that worked for Ford, which are the brake pads, no ceramic discs in those days, and Gerlin, which was the caliper of the disc brakes. And he asked me a question. He said, "How do you brake?" So I said, "By putting my foot on the middle pedal." I know, but how do you do it? Let's say you're coming down the Monceau straight, the fastest thing, to the Monceau hairpin. Right? I look at a marker board, right, and I decide that 300 meters is the time from 200 and something odd miles an hour. I put on my foot on the brake. He said, "Can I suggest something? Why'd you jump on the brake at the 300 meter board when the rotation of the disc is this high speed and it's going to wear the pad out more every time you do it of all the corners at the Mans? Can I suggest that you use the drag and apply a light application and then increase the pedal pressure as you get nearer the corner?"
So we're going to try out two different compounds of brakes, particularly in the front axle of the car. There's one which is more of an endurance brake pad. There's another which is more of a sprint brake pad. It's an hour racing each time. In a Le Mans Classic, you do 3 races of an hour duration. So we need to work out the longevity versus the performance of those. In order to do that, you have to have 2 sets of bedded pads so we can back-to-back them. So there's a process to achieve that. I'm going to go and do that process now in the car and bring in both sets of pads nicely, along with the new set of discs we're going to take to Le Mans to try to get the temperature management right. If we get it wrong, we crack the discs and damage the pads, have to throw them away, and we lose the test. So maybe not the fastest running that the car will ever do, but really important to make sure that we have all of the parts ready to go for the full Le Mans Classic week. So brakes are in and performing fine, I would say. Is the new brake material a revolution? No, but it's at least as good as what we had before. So I'm okay with that. I'm looking forward to trying what else it is that we have. Potentially a little bit soft on the front compound brake pad, overheating it ever so slightly, which actually costs you performance, you know. Sometimes you assume that just a softer and softer pad is going to be better, but if it overheats at contact with the disc, then it's not.
When we ran the other set, was just overheating and the surface and too hot.
So like too soft a compound, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, but too soft a compound of brake to actually deal with the. So I just did a 20.4 across the line, which is also the quickest lap we've done around here. In this, I think.
Right.
And you just instantly feel that they're right. The balance of braking is better. We could use a little bit more front, but I don't think the car will sustain it over a long distance. I think you'll probably end up just cooking the fronts.
Yeah.
But for me, that is a better brake pad than the other.
Because this is the same pad compound that we ran at Goodwood.
Yeah, and I quite like them.
If I didn't jump on the brakes to begin with at the marker board, the car was more stable, and I found that I could end up braking at the same distance, right, and arrive at the corner with a more stable car.
So you build brake pressure into the early part of the braking zone.
Well, you keep stability. It stops the car from doing this, right? Which, as you go towards the corner, it's still like that because the rear you right then. So what happened? We started to apply that in practice, and he said, "Well, how's it going?" I said, "Well, I can go just past the 300-meter ball and still arrive at the corner, a little bit more speed, but a more stable car."
What we're now doing is trying to put the car in a mechanical place so we can lower the nose to give it stability on the Mulsanne straight. That's test 2. So I'm trying at the moment by softening the rear anti-roll bar and managing the damping to get the car into a position where it has understeer. Then what we're hoping to do, because we're on the limit of ride height at the front, is actually raise the rear so the car runs at a sort of more aggressive rate through the air. We're putting ourselves in that position now, and I'm actually trying to make the car understeer so that we can then effectively lower the nose and have a more stable car in a straight line. With limited success so far, it must be said. We did one run with the rear anti-roll bar a little bit softer. It makes it a bit better, but I don't think it's improved it enough or changed it enough. So we're going to try something else.
Did you ever sit down with sort of, engine technician or team and go, right, talk me through this thing front to back?
Well, nothing a driver could do. The basics were so simple, right, that John Horsman had engineered the car, and that's the way it is. And it was well-developed car. So it wasn't a question. I mean, perhaps a bit of roll bar adjustment for, understeer, oversteer, something like that. I mean, when I first drove the 917 at Le Mans on the test day, which was the long-tailed car, Herr Flagel, the engineer, said, "We're just concerned about the balance." I said, "Well, understeer, oversteer, we'll find out." He said, "Not that balance, Jackie. The balance at speed." Because they didn't have a moving ground plane wind tunnel Porsche at that time, and they had a long-tailed car with a little wing on the back, and they were concerned about the imbalance at speed. So I said, "Well, what sort of speed?" He said that 220, 250 kilometers an hour is what we're concerned about. I said, "But I haven't got a speedo. What's that in revs?" So he said 6.2. So I went out on the test. That's the way you used to go, testing that. So when I got up to 6.2, halfway down the Morsel Straight, I did this down the straight, right, to see whether the wheels were still in contact with the road. That's the way we developed the car. And I came back in, and he said it was all right. I said, "It's fine." He said, "What do you do?" So I told him what I did. "It's a good idea," he said. And I went out and broke the lap record.
Still working towards having the car more stable to eventually lower the nose. We've gone softer at the rear. Sort of works. Works in the slow corners. Doesn't really work in the higher speed stuff. We've wound front bump damping. That's the damping that prevents the nose from lowering. Which works really nicely. We've paused for the moment because we're going to take that another step forward and try a full, stiffer front spring package for the car. So that involves a bigger change that we're going to do over lunchtime, and that's to make the car still more stable if we can, so less oversteer. That change is going to happen now over lunch. Then we're going to have the afternoon to try to optimize that, understand what that does, and I'm hoping to leave here with a car which is ready for Le Mans. It's been a really productive morning.
Does the front feel
Yes.
like it's staying where it should?
Yes, it's better. It's definitely better. So
Do we need to go more, do you think?
I don't think so, not at the moment. I think that you'd create a lot of oversteer if we had more. So the magic moment has come. We've lowered the nose relative to the rear. And despite everything that we've done, it's still given the car quite a lot of, a reasonable amount of oversteer. So what we're going to try and do now is we've got an even stiffer front roll bar, which should ditch grip from the front end. So we're going to put that on and see if we can try and get it so that the car is balanced with its new attitude through the air. Car's still running well. That's definitely the right brake setup. We're really into like the final tweaks now. I sound very negative, don't I? It's been a good day. It's been a really good day. Productive. We've got effectively two different setups now. The baseline where we started, and then this one, which is the car optimized to a different attitude. So happy days. Happy days. I'm confident as we head to Le Mans. Final test of the day. We know we're going to be out on gearing. The car will have never been as fast as it's going to go at Le Mans. But I'm just going to get a feel for where we are at in top gear in terms of revs set against a speed, which I can work out from the data system that we have on the car. That'll give us a feel for how far out we are. Then we can change the gearbox and maybe take the car to an airfield or similar to get a feel for it. So yeah, final run at the end of the day, tyres, and then and getting a feel for gearing, and then we'll put it away, cross our fingers and hope for Le Mans. Apart from maybe a quick blat up and down an airfield somewhere, but that's not going to be conclusive for much more than how fast does it go, mate? It needs to go this fast at Le Mans with the right gears in.
235 kilometers per hour. So it gives you a feel for like where we're at in terms of gear and speed.
Yeah.
So that's 6,000 in top.
Nighttime, I'm much smoother with the car, and as a result, I'm driving at 8th, 10th, but the lap time is exceeding the mark that David York had set. I remember saying, we've got around 3 minutes 25, 3 minutes 35 is what we want. Right? I was getting into the 3:24 mark, right? And David knew how I was doing it, but Jackie Hicks didn't. So he started to complain.
That you were going too fast.
I was going too fast and wearing the car out. And he would demonstrate it every time he got in. We changed drivers. When he got in the car, his first lap was 3:24, and then he backed off to 3:30.
So it's nice to know that the endurance teammate dynamic still very much existed.
As
then.
a race driver, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.